Town meeting at 7 o'clock, and a quorum is present. We will begin the annual town meeting of today, June 7th, 2022. Add the warrant. Gotta use those. The return of the warrant shows it was properly served by the Constable of West Brookfield on April 13th, 2022. Now, if you wish me to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, we'll have a brief moment of silence. Thank you, folks. A lot of this will be repetitive if you were here for this special. On behalf of the town, I would like to again thank the school for their help tonight. And we shall have a little speech on our safety with Captain Richard Lafayette.
Here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's the same speech as the special town meeting. Take notice to where the two exits are, the exit signs are lit. Then also, all the way down this hallway to the left, there is a door to the loading dock. So for the simple fact that if we have to exit the building, go out the hallway, take a left, and work your way back to the parking lot. There is emergency lighting if the power does happen to go out, so just please use caution. There are obstacles all over the road.
Thank you. Again, I would like to introduce our Board of Selectmen. We have Mr. Eric Von Blinken, Mr. Roland Sickenberger, Chairman David Pierce, and our Advisory Committee, Michael Audette, Ron Garceau, Doug Aspinall, Co-Chair Pamela Griffin, and Co-Chair Laurie Laughlin. And Town Clerk Sarah Allen. This annual town meeting will consist of 16 articles. At the end of my comments, opening remarks will be made by the Board of Selectmen, and the Advisory Committee will make a presentation. Our objective tonight is to be fair, efficient, and effective. There are, however, some small rules. Warrant articles. Warrant articles will be acted upon in the order they appear on the warrant unless the meeting votes otherwise. And just a heads up, there will be one article that we are going to request be moved up. All main motions must be in writing. The copies given to the town clerk. All motion amendments dealing with the expenditure of money must be in writing. Again, the copies to the town clerk. No person shall address the town meeting without leave of the moderator. Voters wishing to speak to address the meeting shall raise their hand or stand and wait until they are recognized by the moderator. And no one shall address the meeting without first requesting and receiving permission. Time, there is no time limit on the debates. Accordingly, motions to limit time for debate or call the question are not in order. Each individual who speaks to the meeting should make an effort to be as brief as possible out of consideration for others attending the meeting and the need to give adequate time to all matters coming before it. I request that all persons who intend to speak for more than 3 minutes, please let us know ahead of time. In order to give fair opportunity to all to speak, no one who has addressed the meeting on any particular motion shall speak again, except to answer questions until all others wishing to speak to the motion have done so. And at this time, I'd like to thank the town clerk, Sarah, and the town clerk's office for all their hard work. Thank you to Rebecca Sarah for all her hard work on this meeting. And thanks to all of you for coming out. It was a pretty good turnout. Thank you. And lastly, from the Massachusetts Constitution, the people have a right in an orderly and peaceful manner to assemble and to consult upon the common good and give instructions to their representatives. With that, is there an opening motion?
I move that the town vote to allow the following non-voters to sit with the Board of Selectmen: Heather White, Rebecca Sarah, Donna Allen. And to allow the following non-voters to speak: Heather White, C. Thomas O'Donnell, Clayton Edwards, Richard LaPierre, Dr. Brett Costigian, Stephen Duff, Rebecca Sarah, James Daly, Donna Allard, John Madden, and Kelly Hitt.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is moved. Will the advisory committee wish to present their presentation? We'll let them go first.
Sorry, folks. Automatically power down on me. I was hoping to be ready. Yeah, let me just. While we wait, I got a good joke. One joke. I had it set, but yeah. Wait for it. Didn't practice, I promise. There we go. All right. Call that the practice slide. All right, so I don't love reading presentations, but I recognize the folks over there probably can't see this. Now we're trying to stand in front of it. So first and foremost, the West Brookfield Advisory Board wants to let you know that we're happy to be here, we're proud to be here. It's been a tough budget season, but we are an independent group, and we take our commitment to the town of West Brookfield very, very seriously. We commit to being impartial and representing all of the constituents in no single group. Finally, especially this year when budgets were very tight, we recognize that it is our responsibility to be fiscally responsible, especially when the needs of the town are greater than our resources, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. So there's 3 points in here. I promise this is not the longest PowerPoint slide that you'll ever see. The 3 topics we want to talk about are the state of the town's finances, so the budget you're about to vote on. The second is the topic of a town administrator or manager. And 3, the future of the town's financial needs. So this first slide talks about the West Brookfield sources of revenue. We saw this slide last year for those who were here, but I thought it was worth mentioning for those who weren't here, those who don't see this all the time and don't remember. But we have 3 general sources of renewable revenue. First is our tax revenues. That's our tax bills, right? We get state aid revenue, and we have local receipts. So you can see by the pie chart here, for those of you close enough to see, Our tax revenues make up 74% of our renewable revenues every year. The local receipts make up 13%, state aid makes up 11%, and other available funds makes up the small incremental, I think that says 2%, yes, 2%. Our tax revenue, which is 74% of our total revenue, can only be increased by 2.5% over any prior year tax levy. New growth remains slow, not helping us out. State aid, we have no control. We get what we get. And then local receipts are made up of motor vehicle excise tax, meals tax, fees, and permits, stuff like that. So that's our revenue sources. And then it comes to our expenses, which are high, and generally higher than our revenues. So we have two sources of expenses, generally speaking, is our operating expenses and other assessments. We have 10 major categories of expenses: general government, public safety, education, public works, library and recreation, human services, unclassified and shared costs, member benefits and insurance, debt service, and water. You can see by the pie chart, almost half of our operating expenses relates to education. General government, that is almost 9%. Public safety is just over 10%. Public works is 8%. Benefits and insurance is 8%, and everything else is less than 5%. This is based, just so you know, on the budget we're proposing. So that obviously changes as budgets move up and down from year to year. So the budget that's in front of you tonight to be voted on includes total revenues of $9,023,905. That's a lot of money. However, our expenses in the budget are $9,280,090, leaving us with a deficit of $256,000. That includes our debt service. So how do we pay for that? Well, the answer is free cash, which is basically money turned over from last year's budget. Money that we budgeted to spend but didn't spend. So we're going to be able to pay for this budget this year out of free cash. But if you remember from the earlier slide, free cash was not one of our renewable revenue sources. This is not something we can count on year to year. We've really tightened down the budgets. We can't count on free cash from one year to the next. So that's all I wanted to talk about with respect to the budget process, just so that when you see what's in front of you, you understand how that works. We're voting on operating expenses only. All right, second topic, town administrator/manager. The terms are sometimes used interchangeably, but they do, from town to town, they may vary on the amount of responsibility. But the town of West Brookfield's advisory committee is recommending that the town move forward with creating a town manager or administrator position. A town administrator or manager, I'm going to use manager, but I'm using it interchangeably until the town decides what's the best fit for them or what they want to call it, but that way we can leave it open. A town manager would be responsible for the day-to-day operations of the town. The town manager would support the select board in carrying out their duties. He or she would coordinate all municipal services, work to build a team with all department heads and other municipal employees, recommend and enforce policies related to finance, personnel, purchasing, cash management, risk management, planning, and employee development. A town manager would also develop long-range plans to achieve goals and objectives, and have accountability and report to the Board of Selectmen. A town manager is not an independent person who can make whatever decisions they want. They are governed by the select board. Why do we need this? Well, the select board is a part-time and highly voluntary group. And I say voluntary because they get a tiny stipend that can't possibly compensate them for the time and aggravation. So we appreciate what you do. So a town administrator or manager would carry out in a full-time position what cannot be accomplished by the select board members, no matter how conscientious, diligent, and responsible they might be. A town administrator would be expected to be available outside of normal business hours, have specific education, training, and experience, and would not be required to be from West Brookfield, and therefore not required, not excluded. But they would bring an independent perspective to the role. So this would be a hired position, not an elected position. The person would, I did, didn't I? Hold on. This is what happens when you lean on your computer. Hit the right key. Sorry about that. Sorry. So that really is all I had to say about the town manager, other than the fact that this position is in the budget that's in front of you tonight. It is part of the Selectmen's budget. So we just want to be transparent. We're not hiding anything. This position is in the budget for this year, in the Selectmen's budget. All right. The last few slides are about the future of West Brookfield in our finance position. These slides are not making me any friends tonight, and I'm sorry for that. It is not good news. The budget we're putting in front of you is completely unsustainable. Year over year, we're giving you a budget where we have we're voting in a deficit every year and hoping to God something happens. Free cash, frees up, or we have something that changes that suddenly we have money we didn't expect. None of us run our households this way, or at least I hope you don't. The growth in our expenses continue to outpace our revenues. The largest line item of our budget, which makes up 47% of our total budget, increased 12% this year. We slashed our original budget by over $1 million. So that's the point I wanted to let you all know, is the original budgets that we collected from all the different committees in departments, there's almost 80 of them. We cut back everywhere we thought we could, over $1 million from what was asked from the town. And we're still in a $256,000 deficit. So I just want you to be all aware that there was a lot of work done to get us to even this point. As mentioned earlier, we're balancing our budget with free cash, which is not a renewable source of revenue, and we can't sustain this sort of growth. Also, as noted on the earliest slides, we can only raise our taxes 2.5%. When our expenses are increasing this fast, we can't keep up. Inflation, we're all feeling that pinch. We're all feeling the pinch of the fuel cost increase that hits the town as well. So there's always unexpected and uncontrollable costs, special education needs, retirement benefits, increased fuel, problems with the water systems that we need to fund, and inflation. So this last slide, you're really going to hate me, but I'm going to be honest with you. There we go. The West Brookfield Advisory Committee is forewarning you. At some point, you're going to need a 2.5% override, or you're going to lose services. There's no other way around it. There's nothing we can do, whether the services are with education, highway, health and human services. It has to come from somewhere. We don't have the money that we need to sustain the services that we have. Tax revenues make up 74% of our revenue as our only source of income, our only controllable source of income. We can't rely on state aid. We can't rely on fees. The fixed income is our tax base. Don't think we like this any more than you do, but as I mentioned, we've cut budgets. There's only so much more we can cut. Services in some departments are already suffering. Our committee recognizes that. We don't like it any more than you do, but we're trying to make the best balanced budget that we can. In some cases, we have vacancies in departments, and we're not filling them. The town has no capital plan, and frankly, the cost of inflation in fuel is just increasing. So we are not going to talk about this tonight. It's not a debate. It is not something we're asking for this year. We're just letting you know this is not avoidable. So that is all I have. I appreciate taking up so much of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And I kind of skipped over, is there any opening remarks by the Board of Selectmen?
Good evening. On behalf of the members of the Board of Selectmen, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for attending this evening's meeting. Tonight is the culmination of many months of hard work by the town's financial team. Members of the advisory committee, along with guidance from Donna Elmother, our town accountant, and John Madden, our budget consultant, once again worked tirelessly to ensure that the best possible decisions were made considering our fiscal constraints. serve you in this capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. So let the fun begin, folks, right? Article 1. Article 1 requires no motion, is to bring in the votes. And sorry, you already did that. Right? Article 2, I move that the town hear and act upon the annual reports of the town offices and committees, or take any other action relative thereto. Does anyone want to?
Sure, so moved. Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Or voted? It was unanimous. Article 3. I move that the town vote to determine the compensation to be paid to the following elected town officers as stated in the warrant for the 12-month period beginning July 1. Town moderator for fiscal 2022 was $600. It is recommended that be $300. Selectmen, each 2 members in fiscal 22 was $1,500. The recommended is level funding at $1,500. The assessors, each 2 members, $2,913 and 12. And for fiscal 23, level funded at $2,913 and 12 cents. The assessors clerk, $4,161.60. Again, level funded for $4,161.60. The Board of Health, each 2 members, $915.55. Level funded for fiscal 23 at $915.55. The Board of Health chairman, $1,144.40. Again, level funded, $1,144.40. The town clerk, $31,661. Again, level funded, $31,661. The water commissioners, each 3 members, $400.55. Level funded for $455. This article requires a simple majority vote.
The advisory board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
No.
The motion carries. The article carries, I'm sorry. Article 4, I move that the town appropriate the sum of $9,143,621 as the operating budget of the town as listed in the Advisory Committee fiscal year 2023 budget request for the purposes and the amounts specified, and to meet said appropriation, raise the sum of $8,887,437 and to transfer the sum of $256,184 from free cash, and further vote that any state reimbursements which result in available funds to the Quabog Regional School District in excess of the approved budget shall be used to reduce the town's assessment or take any other action relative thereto. there any discussion from the advisory committee?
Advisory board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen?
The select board recommends approval.
Is there any other discussion? The article is open for debate. There being none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? There being none, the article is unanimous. I'm sorry, folks, the moderator made a big boo-boo. Motion to reconsider. Am I right, Sarah? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? What we're going to do on the budget is I'm going to read them all. If anyone in the audience has to request a hold on a particular item, we will hold the item, and when we're done with the list, we'll go back to the holds. Anyone have any questions on that? Your Honor. The department name is the moderator. The description is salary. The total is, for fiscal 22 is $600. For fiscal 23, the total is $300, it's minus 50%. The Selectmen, the fiscal year 22 was $74,787, of which $63,177 was salary. Expenses were $11,610. For fiscal 23, salaries are $139,449. Expenses are $13,360 for a total of $152,809.
Hold.
Advisory Committee, salary for fiscal 22 was $2,250. Expenses $150, total $2,400. For fiscal 23, it is being level funded, $2,250 for salary, $150 for expenses, for a total of $2,400. The reserve fund for fiscal 22 was $50,000 total. For fiscal 23, $50,000 total. The accountant, fiscal 22, the salary was $79,230. Expenses were $28,900 for a total of $108,130. In fiscal 23, salary is $80,814. Expenses are $29,175 for a total of $109,989. For the assessors, in fiscal 22, the salaries were $59,920. Expenses were $21,355 for a total of $81,275. For fiscal 23, salaries at $45,020. Expenses at $21,585 for a total of $66,605.
Hold.
The Treasurer's Office, salary is $72,175 in fiscal 22. Expenses of $20,090 for a total of $92,265. For fiscal 23, Salary is $73,619. Expenses are $18,663 for a total of $92,282. The tax collector, salary in fiscal '22 was $58,346. Expenses were $19,200 for a total of $77,546. For fiscal '23, salary $59,514, expenses $19,200, total of $78,714. Legal counsel, the total was $55,000 in fiscal '22. For fiscal '23, asking $55,000, level funded. Town clerk, salaries were $53,857, expenses were $2,360, for a total of $56,217. For fiscal '23, the recommendation is $46,860 on salaries, $3,060 on expenses, for a total of $49,920. Elections and regulations, salaries were $15,003, expenses were $13,006, for a total of $28,900. Fiscal '23, $27,000 for salaries, expenses $13,600, for a total of $40,600. Conservation, salaries were $1,938, expenses $1,500, total of $3,438. Fiscal '23 is salaries at $1,900, expenses at $1,700, for a total of $3,600. The planning board, fiscal '22, the salaries was $1,800, expenses were $2,000, for a total of $3,800. Recommended for fiscal '23 at a level funding, salaries $1,800, expenses $2,000, total of $3,800. The zoning board, in fiscal '22, salaries are $1,200, expenses were $1,750, total of $2,950. For fiscal '23, there is no recommended change. It remains a total of $2,950. Earth removal, again, it's a level funded board, salaries at $300, expenses at $100, total of $400. For fiscal '23 is the same, $300, $100, and $400. Town hall is salaried at $9,616 in 2022. Expenses were $45,770 for a total of $55,386. Fiscal '23, salaries to be $9,809, expenses $51,370 for a total of $61,179. Town reports, fiscal '22, $3,100. Fiscal '23, $3,000. Computer technology, there is no salary. Fiscal '22, expenses were $40,000. Fiscal '23, salaries nothing, expenses at $47,000. The police department, salaries in fiscal '22 were $614,437. Expenses were $89,924 for a total of $704,361. Salaries for fiscal '23, $617,390. Expenses $75,851 for a total of $693,241. Parking clerk, fiscal '22 had salaries of $113. For fiscal '23, salaries of $115. Fire department salary, excuse me, and fiscal '22 is $97,928. Expenses were $75,000 for a total of $172,928. Fiscal '23, the recommended is salaries to $95,233, expenses $75,100, total of $170,333. Building inspector, salary $17,874, expenses $3,031, for a total of $20,905. For fiscal '23, salaries up to $18,231, expenses $3,031, for a total of $21,262. The gas inspector, salary $1,000 in fiscal '22, expenses $150, for a total of $1,150. Salary in fiscal '23 $1,020, expenses $300, for a total of $1,320. The building inspector $2,250 for salaries, expenses were $100, for a total of $2,350. For fiscal '23, salaries $2,295, expenses $150, for a total of $2,445. So it was fun. Thank you, Larry. Next is the electrical inspector. $4,969 for salary, $500 for expenses, for a total of $5,469. For fiscal '23, salaries $4,970, expenses $500, for a total of $5,470. Zoning enforcement, salaries $10,391, expenses were $450, for a total of $10,841. For fiscal '23, the recommended salary is $10,599, expenses $450, for a total of $11,049. The animal inspector, salary was $1,411, expenses were $100, the total was $1,511. Salary for fiscal '23, $1,439, expenses $100, total $1,539. Emergency management, salary in '22 was $4,265, expenses were $5,465, the total was $9,730. For fiscal '23, salaries at $4,300, expenses at $5,465, for a total of $9,765. Animal control, fiscal '22 salaries were $4,191, expenses were $500, for a total of $4,691. Salaries for fiscal '23, $4,275, expenses $500, for a total of $4,775. Tree warden, salary $651, expenses were $80,000, for a total of $80,651. For fiscal '23, salary $2,500, expenses $40,000, the total $42,500. Insect control, the total expense of $1,500. The recommended for fiscal '23 is level funded at $1,500. Education expenses in fiscal '22 were $3,825,315. Transportation was $376,671. Assessment was $3,113,771. Above the minimum was $334,873. The debt service was $0, for a total of $3,825,315. For fiscal '23, the expense $4,302,022. Transportation $612,970. Assessment $3,337,616. Above the minimum is $351,438, and debt service will remain at $0. The total for fiscal '23 is $4,302,022. Vocational expenses. Is there a comment?
Hold on, education.
Vocational ed expenses for fiscal '22 were $590,139. Transportation $47,858. Tuition were $542,281, for a total of $590,139. $139. Fiscal 23, expenses $296,950. Transportation, $45,750. Tuitions, $251,200, for a total of $296,950. Highway Department, salaries in fiscal 22 were $383,497. Expenses were $166,600, for a total of $550,097. Fiscal 23 recommended is salaries $385,437, with expenses at $154,500, for a total of $539,937. Winter roads, salaries were $20,312, expenses were $82,000, for a total of $102,312. For fiscal 23, salaries $20,718, expenses $83,640, for a total of $104,358. Municipal lighting with all expenses, total of $42,000 for fiscal 22, and the recommended for fiscal 23 is $43,000. Central Fuel Depot, the expenses in fiscal 22 was zero, for a total of zero. They're recommending an expense for fiscal 23 is $62,900, for a total of $62,900. The landfill had expenses of $32,000 for fiscal 22. The fiscal 23 recommended is $20,000, for a total of $20,000. On the cemetery, the salaries were $23,500, expenses were $5,900. Salary for fiscal 23, $24,034, expenses $5,500, for a total of $29,534. Board of Health, fiscal 22 salaries $45,556, expenses $8,050, total of $53,606. For fiscal 23, salaries $46,354, expenses $8,050, total of $54,404. Council on Aging, salaries were $80,956, $24,060 in expenses, for a total of $105,016. For fiscal 23, $82,523, expenses of $24,150, for a total of $106,725. Veteran Services, salaries were $3,984, expenses were $48,900, for a total of $52,884. Salaries for fiscal 23, $3,984, expenses $48,900, total is the same, $52,884. The library, the salary is $136,111, expenses were $68,413, for a total of $204,524. Fiscal 23, salaries $135,992, expenses $71,091, for a total of $207,083. Recreation, there's a salary of $14,106, expenses were $4,100, for a total of $18,206. Fiscal 23, salary $12,500, expenses $4,500, total of $17,000. Historical was just expenses of a total of $752, and it was level funded for fiscal 23 at $752. Celebrations, expenses were $1,500, total was $1,500 for fiscal 23. It's level funded for the same, $1,500. Lake Wickabog had an expense of $20,000 for a total of $20 in fiscal 22. For fiscal 23, it is level funded for $20,000. Common, expenses were $3,500. For fiscal '23, the recommended is $3,570. Debt services, we have principal payments for fiscal '22. We have principal payments of $156,900. For fiscal '23, it's going to be $114,000, a decrease of 27%. Interest on temporary notes was $1,000 in '22 and $1,000 in '23. Interest on bonded debt in fiscal '22 is $15,299. Fiscal '23, $8,990, which is a decrease of 41%. Borrowing expense in '82 is $1,100. In fiscal '23, it's $1,000. It's minus 9%. Miscellaneous interest, $100. If a fiscal '23 recommended to be the same. Subtotal on the debt is $174,399 for '22 and $125,090 in '23, which is a decrease of 28%. The CMRPC expenses totaled $1,114. For fiscal '23, it's going to be $1,136. Group health insurance expense was $385,000 in fiscal '22. Should be $380,000 for fiscal '23. Worcester County retirement expense was $342,527 in fiscal '22. Expense for fiscal '23, $367,845. There was a hold on the line for page 6 or 6. Sorry about that. Medicare. Expenses were $30,000 for fiscal '22. The recommended is $30,000 again for fiscal '23. Life insurance expense was $500 in '22. It's $500 in '23. General insurance was $316,316. For fiscal '23, it jumped to $171,482. Water, the salaries were $169,509. Expenses were $225,489 for a total of $394,998. Fiscal '23, salaries $164,670. Expenses $238,339 for a total of $403,009. The drop-off center, salary of $8,802. Expenses of $4,500. Total is $13,302. For fiscal '23, salaries of $8,978. Expenses of $4,500. Total of $13,478. Agriculture Committee, salary of $200. Expenses were $400 for a total of $600. And that fiscal '23 is level funded for a total of the same $600. Stormwater, salary is $1,800. Expenses were $400, total of $2,200. For fiscal '23, salaries are $1,600, expenses are $400, total of $2,000. So the totals for the salary for fiscal '22 were $2,067,522. The first hold we had was on Selectmen. The fiscal '22 salary was $63,177. The expenses were $11,610 for a total of $74,787. Fiscal '23 recommended was $139,449 in salaries. Expenses were $13,360 for a total of $152,809. Could you come up to the microphone, please, Paul?
Do I need to?
Yes, please. And with that microphone get as close to it as you could, please, Paul?
Paul Lepenis, 38 Red Point Road, here in West Brookfield. I'd just like an explanation, please. I must have missed something over the last couple of years, but 121% in salaries increase and total select board expense of 104%. Just sounds unexplainable without an explanation.
Thank you, Paul. Board of Selectmen?
You want us to take that?
Go ahead.
So in my presentation earlier, I had mentioned that we put in a budget for the town administrator / manager position. That's $75,000 of the increase. Everything else was a 2% increase across the board for all salaries. You're welcome.
Is there any other debate? There being none, the next hold was in the assessor's office. Fiscal 22 salaries were $59,920. Expenses were $21,355 for a total of $81,275. For fiscal 23 salaries $45,020. Expenses $21,585 for a total of $66,605. And who do we have?
Hi, Rebecca Cornell, 16 Ridge Road. Is this decrease due to losing a staff member or just changing salary? So the assessor's office was 2 people and now it's 1? And that one staff member also staffs the ZBA, is that correct?
If they did, it would get paid out of the ZBA's budget.
Right. I'm just wondering about the ratio of staff to the needs of the department. I guess that was my question.
The other staff person that was not being replaced had a salary of $12,000, so it was not a full-time position, and we don't even have a number of hours, like weekly number of hours that it was. So
That's great.
It was a small.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Is there any other debate? There being none, we will move on to the next hold, which is legal counsel. In fiscal 22, the expenses were $55,000. The recommended for fiscal 23 is $55,000.
Margaret Bortel, 29 Highland Trail here in West Brookfield, and thank you for taking my question. Although it's level funded year over year, I do have a question as to whether that's on a retainer or hours spent. The second part to my question is, when was the last time that the town put this service out to bid? And what is the town's policy with respect to putting these kinds of services out to bid?
Selectmen, take them out.
Excuse me. It is hourly, hours, payable hours. Okay.
When was the last time it was put out to bid?
Actually, we are just about to put it up to bid. Putting out right.
And does the town have a policy with respect to service contracts that are this pricey to put it out to bid regularly?
We go by chapter 30B.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other debate? There being none, the next hold was on computer technology. It was a line item of expenses only. The total is $40,000 in fiscal 22 and $47,000 in fiscal 23.
I have the same questions as the last set of services that are provided to the town, which is, when was the last time that the computer services contract was put out to bid? And what's the plan for the future if it hasn't been recent?
We're actually in the process of putting it out now. We've recently changed service providers for IT support. We went from Anavray to a company called NEIT. We were also recently awarded a $47,000 grant to improve our network security and infrastructure. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I have a little bit of an add-on with respect to the town's website. Is there any plan to
It is in the to-do, and we're working on it.
Okay, and how will you report back to the town, the constituents? Is there a plan to, have a follow-up meeting, or?
With respect to the town website,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's important to be informed, and at this point, posting paper.
well, we're
notices on
making,
bulletin boards
if you
not
look,
effective.
the website has been recently updated,
Okay.
and we're making efforts to make sure it's updated on a more regular basis. And, I'm sorry? The topics will be on our agenda that's posted.
Okay, great, thank you.
Next, sir. Your name and address, please.
Patrick Goodwin, 18 Old Westbrook River Road, Westbrook. So in respect to the technology budget, I understand in the past couple of years, there were years where we didn't have a budget. And we had a budget like catch-up with a lot of the desktops and laptops in the town. So the 47,000, you mentioned that there was a grant. Right? So I'm trying to understand how that's broken down. My observation so far is we have a good set of technology. So I'm trying to understand if it's software licensing or whatnot. I'm just trying to understand why we wouldn't do it to 20,000.
I don't understand your question. The grant is separate from the budget.
So then, what is to stop the budget from being 20,000 instead of 47,000?
There's a certain cost in maintaining technology. There's a certain cost in maintaining network security and making sure that our users are supported so that when they have a question, they have somebody reliable they can call
So you're referring to the cost of a third party.
of a support. Yeah.
And
Of a
you
support
quoted
person.
about 47,000?
It's a big chunk of it. It's not the entire budget. There's a piece of it.
Because my concern down the line is you're going to need to do a hardware refresh, right? And you're going to need to also update
Well,
the software.
that's what the grant money's for.
Okay. So the grant money is also for the software as well.
The grant money is going towards a firewall, new switches, new file servers.
So what happened to the firewall from the last time?
That firewall is now 5 years old.
Okay. Now, I understand that firewall was 2 years old when we bought it.
No, it's brand new. We've had that, perhaps it's not 5, maybe it's only 4.
All right. So new firewall, and who administers all of this? Is it still a third party?
Yeah.
So in addition to however it gets managed, my concern is, this is just a suggestion, that you get a formal policy or system administration in place, meaning that whoever's the gatekeeper of all this hardware and software is someone with the town. If that has not happened already. Because if you're switching hands from one vendor to another, so there goes the knowledge from one vendor to another. So that's the big concern I have, because if you have the tax collector office, they're being supported formally by a third party, we're switching over to a new third party. I'm more concerned about how we're supporting today. Was there a switch of village knowledge for that? Same thing, asset management. How do I know if there are laptops that disappear? Okay.
Point taken. Thank you very much. We actually, this past year, we did have a network assessment. That was how we got the grant.
It was more referring to asset management, meaning that, hey, you bought 2 laptops last year. You can account that they exist today versus 3 laptops the year previous. So,
I understand your point.
Thank you very much. Is there any other debate on technology? I'm not seeing any, so the next hold is on tree warden. Salary in 22 is $651, expenses were $80,000, for a total of $80,651. For fiscal 23, salary $2,500, expenses $40,000, for a total of $42,500.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Paul LaBennis, 38 Redpoint Road. It just occurs to me that in past years, it seems like we've had tons of trees cut down in town. So we've had a salary of $650 to advise outside contractors to cut down trees for an expense of probably $80,000. And we're moving forward to increase the salary by but it looks like we're cutting down fewer trees. Could I please have an explanation?
Board of Selectmen will answer that.
Okay. We can also refer to the tree warden, who is the highway superintendent. However, our tree warden retired or resigned. Okay, so we appointed the highway superintendent as the new tree warden. Okay, it was his choice to cut the salary the expenses in half. Also, National Grid has come into town, if you haven't noticed, and cut down a lot of trees, all the dead trees and stuff. So our expenses going forward is not going to be as bad. The salary, most towns are giving $6,000 for a tree warden. Okay,
So does that mean that we're adding to the, what did you say was the highway department supervisor who's taking the tree warden?
correct. And he's doing a fine job doing it too.
And so we're adding $2,500 to his salary.
And that's a stipend for doing the tree work. Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Is there any other debate? Yes, sir.
Bob Dax, 147 West Main. I just have a question. I guess it would be to the highway superintendent, but or the.
You can ask through the chair, please.
Okay, through the chair. How is tree condition determined? Is there coring done? Is there coring into the trunk of trees done to determine viable?
Mr. Daly, would you like to answer that question, please?
Jim Daly, West Brookfield Highway. Once in a while we do check, do a core sample of the trees, but we have so many trees that are just blatantly dead that you almost drive around to see. So, but once in a while we do a core.
Is that your answer? Okay, thank you very much. Any other discussion? We move on to the next hold, which was education. Education fiscal 22, the expenses were $3,825,315. Transportation was $376,671. Assessment was $3,113,771. Above the minimum was $334,873. Debt service was $0 for a total of $3,825,315. Fiscal 23, the recommended expense is $4,302,022. Transportation, $612,970. The assessment is $3,337,616. Above the minimum is $351,436. Debt service is $0 for a total of $4,302,022.
I'd like to make a motion to add $200,000 to the above minimum contribution of $351,436,000 for a total of $551,436,000, which would increase the total expenditure to $4,502,022 for the Big Heart Regional School.
May I ask that you have that motion in writing? If not, could you? So if I can focus on fiscal year '23, the motion the gentlelady seeks is to add $200,000 to the above minimum, which the request is for $351,436. The new total would be $551,436. Is there a second?
I second that.
Is there any discussions on the motion? Advisory?
Want me to go down there?
That would be nice, unless you want, yes, please.
Yeah, Griffin, 15 Griffin Road. Based on the presentation that we had earlier, where we said we already have a deficit of $256,000, we'd really like to know where the town's supposed to come up with this money. The original budget the school gave us was a 32% increase over last year. The budget that's in front of the town now was everything that the town could do to match what Warren does. We can't just come up with any number that we want that's lower than Warren and not affecting Warren. We can't increase ours without causing them to go back and increase theirs or have some joint things. So we worked very, very hard to match Warren's number, which we didn't think we could do, and we didn't actually do it until about 9 o'clock last night. So we just want to know, and again, you know I'm a big fan of the school. I just don't know how we're going to come up with this money. I mean, I am neck deep, eyeball deep into this budget. I don't know where it's coming from.
Shepherd, could I ask you a question, please? Could you come up for a second, please?
there's nothing we can do. How much is free cash?
Folks, there's a motion on the floor. The motion is to rescind her motion. It's been seconded. So the motion is to rescind. Is all in favor of the motion to rescind, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Now we can resume discussion. Is there any more discussion on the education hold?
Hi, this is Nathaniel Haskins from 25 Church Street. I just wanted to better understand the 63% increase in transportation.
Yes, louder, please.
Sorry, I'd just like to understand the increase in the transportation budget. It seems to be significant.
Who would like to take that?
It's contractual. It's contractual.
Please, folks, one question at a time.
It's contractual, therefore we have to pay that amount. That's what the numbers went up, according to the state and our local transportation agency.
Dave Bouchard, 191 Wigwam Road in West Brookfield. What is the anticipated reimbursement rate this year for transportation? And to what do we contribute the significant reduction in our vocational costs that we're paying out?
So in the budget, the transportation reimbursement is set at 75%. And I'll defer to the advisory on the vocational.
Yep, it's on. So the vocational budget was a real hard press for us to get actual numbers. We made phone calls as of yesterday to both Pathfinder and Tantascwa to find out what their numbers actually are. Assuming that the seniors are rolling off, but there may be freshmen coming in. The numbers that we've been budgeting for have been based on not enough information. So I mean, we literally made phone calls yesterday to find out better numbers. So those are based on the best possible numbers we had as of 24 hours ago.
Are there any other questions on education?
Hi, Rebecca Cornell, 16 Ridge Road. I have a question that stems from the language in the article. Let me make sure I'm looking at the right article. Sorry?
Article 4.
4, thank you. Okay, this one, and vote any state reimbursement which result in available funds to the Quabog School District in excess of the approved budget amount shall be used to reduce the town's assessment. Do we have any idea how much money we actually might be getting back?
It ebbs and flows every year. In the past, transportation sometimes goes up and Chapter 70 goes up. We're basing our numbers on a projection from the state. If the state numbers go up, basically what will happen is instead of the school district getting additional funds, that money would go back to the towns. As for right now, for Chapter 70, I don't see that going up, in my opinion. With transportation, I do see that potentially going up from 75% to roughly 85%, which I think would be somewhere around 50,000 for Westbrook.
50 or 15? 50.
And what we do every year, I've been here 13 years, what we've done every year is that money goes back to the town, and they use it how the town sees fit.
Are there any other questions on education? Not seeing any. The next poll was on the Central Fuel Depot. Fiscal 22 total is 0. The expenses for fiscal 23 are recommended $62,900. Ask whoever asked for the hold.
So, sorry, that scared me. What? Yeah, 16 Ridge Road. My name is Rebecca Cornell. If I recall correctly from an advisory board meeting, is this a new category that all the fuel is coming out of? And does that include police and fire?
Yes, we took all the fuel out of everybody else's budget and put it in its own budget, including police and fire.
Does that include the schools too, or do they have their own fleet and it's different?
It does not include the schools.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on fuel? Not seeing any. The next poll was on the landfill. Fiscal 22 budget was expenses at $32,000. For fiscal 23, they're recommending $20,000.
Hi, Bob Dennis, 147 West Main. It was just a matter of curiosity. There was some huge operational change that causes that drop, or is it a question of volume or what?
Who would like that one?
Take that?
Advisory?
So the advisory board took a look at the budget and the last 4 years' worth of expenses. In fiscal year 2022 to date, we've only spent $17,600. In fiscal year 21, we spent less than $7,500. In fiscal year 20, we paid just about $26,000. In fiscal year 2019, we paid $18,000. So it was based on the 4-year average of what we've been spending and what we expect to spend.
Any other questions on the landfill? The next hold was Veterans Services. Fiscal 22, the salaries were $3,984. Expenses were $48,900. Recommended for fiscal 23, salaries $3,984 with expenses at $48,900. It was level funded.
Michael Frew, 19 Winter Street. I might be inaccurate, but I think in years past, and I'm not really knowing where to ask this particular question, but I thought it was best here, that in years past we had a line item for the Memorial Day Parade. Is that correct? So it's under celebration, so it is there. That's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frew. Is there any other discussion? Move on to the next hold, and there were none. So in summary for the budget, fiscal 22, salaries were at $2,067,522. Expenses were $6,824,079 for a total of $8,891,601. For fiscal 23, the recommendation is salaries $2,139,244. Expenses at $7,004,377 for a total of $9,143,621. Is there a motion to second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. There being none, the motion is carried unanimous. And just give me 1 second. I have to switch some papers around. We were going to ask to change the article.
No, I'm not sure. I'm just going to go with that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I had to clean up my paperwork. I've only moved up 3 or 4 times. Article 5. I move that the town vote to amend Chapter 5 of the general bylaws of the town by adding a new Section 7 to establish and authorize revolving funds for use by certain town departments, boards, committees, agencies, or offices under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53 and a half, as as outlined in the warrant or take any action relative thereto. A single majority is recommended, and Board of Selectmen.
Advisory board recommends approval.
Select board recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor say aye. Board of Selectmen, second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimous. Article 6. I move that the town vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to reauthorize the use of a revolving fund to pay cemetery-related expenses, which fund shall be credited with receipts from various burial ground commission fees, such expenditures not to exceed $16,000 in fiscal year '23, to take any action relative thereto. The vote requires a simple majority.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
The advisory board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen,
Select board recommends approval.
is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The article carries unanimous. Article 7. I move that the town vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53 and a half, to reauthorize the Stormwater Authority's use of a revolving fund, which fund shall be credited with receipts from various Stormwater Authority fees, such expenditures not to exceed $25,000 in fiscal year '23. A simple majority is called for on this article. And motion?
Second.
Advisory?
Advisory board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen?
Select board recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The article is unanimous. Article 8, I move that the town vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, 53E and a half, to authorize the tree warden use of a revolving fund, which fund shall be credited with receipts from various stewardship programs, such expenditures not to exceed $10,000 in fiscal year '23. Simple majority is needed, and sponsored by the tree warden. Second. Second. Advisory.
Advisory board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen.
Select board recommends approval.
Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The article is unanimous. Article 9. I move that the town vote to authorize the water commissioners to employ their licensed water commissioners at grade 1, step 2, which is $12.83 per hour, for standby duty and emergency work in the absence of the superintendent in fiscal year 2023. Sponsored by the Water Department.
Second.
You want me to say that last time? Okay. There's a simple advisory.
Advisory board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen.
Select board recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Article 10. I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen, 1, to acquire by purchase, gift, eminent domain or otherwise, on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen shall determine, permanent and temporary easements or other interests in land for public way and other municipal purposes in connection with the construction, alteration, maintenance, improvement, and repair to Route 9 in 2 construction phases identified as Mass DOT Project 606517 and Mass DOT Project 609049, and further to seek rescission of House Bill number 4550 and to to seek authorization and approval of the general court, which may include a petition brought pursuant to the provisions of Article 97 of the amendments of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts relative to certain permanent and temporary easements located on land owned by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Fish and Game. And further, to exchange such town-owned land and/or easements as may be necessary to acquire said permanent and temporary easements from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deem appropriate. And further, to convey to the Commonwealth, acting through the Department of Fish and Game, all or part of land owned by the town and shown on Assessors Map 26 as Parcel 3, containing approximately 23.2 acres, and to enter into all agreements and take all related actions necessary or appropriate to carry out said acquisitions and other acts authorized herein, or take any action relative thereto, sponsored by the Board of Selectmen. And this article requires a 2/3 vote. For a second.
Second.
Advisory.
Advisory Board recommends approval.
Selectmen.
Select Board recommends approval.
Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor? I forgot, I just said it was a secret ballot. Sorry. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. It's unanimous. We have waived the... Yes. Sorry about that. I said 2/3 and I went and said, oops. That was a secret ballot. So we are going to have to revote. And it's a 2/3 vote, so we're going to have to do numbers. All in favor will raise their right hand. No, that's pretty good. Opposed, raise your right hand. There being none, the article is unanimous. Sorry about that, guys. I stood right here and said it was 2/3. Article 11, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the town road maintenance account and to meet a said appropriation transfer from free cash the sum of $50,000 sponsored by the Highway Department. Advisory.
Advisory Board recommends approval.
Selectmen.
Select Board recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The article is unanimous. Article 12. I move that the town vote to amend the general bylaws of the town to add a new chapter, 4-A Capital Planning Committee, and to establish a capital planning committee in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 106B, and Chapter 4-A Capital Planning Committee to read as follows. There shall be a capital planning committee in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 106B. Said committee shall consist of 5 members to be appointed by the Board of Selectmen for terms of 3 years, who shall annually review the capital improvement program, if any, and any proposals for the construction of municipal buildings, acquisition of land or personal property. Said committee may make recommendations to the appropriate officer, board, agency, or department, and such recommendations may be included within the annual budget or the annual report required by Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 61. Any vacancy occurring shall be filled for the unexpired term in the same manner as the original appointment, or take any action relative thereto, sponsored by the Board of Selectmen. Second.
Second.
Advisory.
Advisory Board recommends approval.
Selectmen.
Select Board recommends approval.
And is there any discussion on this article? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The article is unanimous. 13, I move that the town vote to assess an additional $675,000 to purchase a pumping engine for the fire department, and that the appropriation of these funds be subject to passage of a capital exclusion contingent upon Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, I1 half, or take any action relative thereto, sponsored by the fire department and the Board of Selectmen. Advisory?
The advisory board just wants to hold until we find out a funding source.
No recommendation. Is there any discussion?
Can't hear you. Road? Hello? This is a lot of money. I don't know where it's going to come from. But if we take a look at, on the internet, you can find a used one for a third of the price. And that might be doable. Here's a Freightliner, $225,000. It's a 2007. There's a couple more that I have here. There's another one for $80,000, international. And there's another Ford. And then we just got on the internet within seconds. So I would take a look at what there is available before you jump into an expensive one. I know we need to upgrade what we have, and I'm all for being part of a fundraising on getting onto a newer vehicle.
Does the board want to respond?
If you don't mind, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make the comment.
Yes, I'm sorry, Chief. Captain.
So just to let you know, for those who don't know me, my name is Rich Lapierre. I'm a captain with the West Brookfield Fire Department. And yes, that gentleman is right. There are tons of used apparatus online. You can get them essentially just about anywhere. The problem that the West Brookfield Fire Department has is that building was built in 1941. The doors are much smaller than your typical fire station. So we have height restrictions, we have width restrictions. We actually did look into used apparatus and tried to find one that would fit in that building. Now, with that being said, the problem that we have, the other problem that we have is we've got 2 trucks that are broken down. And instead of buying 2 trucks, we're trying to combine 2 trucks into one. So it actually, what we're trying to do is outfit those 2 trucks into the one vehicle, which means a cab that essentially fit 5 firefighters. One of the trucks that broke down is 2,000 gallons. The other truck that's broke down is 1,000 gallons, which is a total of 3,000 gallons. And then also pump capacity. The tanker that's broke down is 500 gallon a minute pump, and then the engine that's broke down is a 1,250 gallon a minute pump, which is a total of about 1,750 gallons. With that being said, the truck that we have proposed is a 15,000 gallon a minute pump. 1,500 gallon a minute pump, my apologies. So aside of not losing much in the way of building a truck, the first problem that we have is we don't have the room to fit it in the door because the building is so old. So that's why we've had to gone out to manufacturers to have one built that will fit in the building because the building is 1941. Does that answer your question?
Next.
Hi, Rebecca Cornell, 16 Ridge Road. Is there any trade-in value for the vehicles that we own?
So for the tanker is not owned by the town of West Brookfield. It actually comes from a federal access property program through the Department of Conservation and Recreation. That truck, that's the big green one parked down at the highway garage, that one has to go back to the state. And what they do with it is beyond us. It could go to auction, it could go wherever. Engine 2, which is the 1983 truck, that truck, I believe, the last I heard that the manufacturer, they said they would take it, but they wouldn't give us much for it, maybe somewhere in the area of $2,500, and we'd be probably better off to sell it in an auction, and we'd do better.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple overarching concerns related to this really high number. And the first one that I hadn't even thought of until what you just mentioned, we need a new public safety complex. If these trucks aren't going to fit in what we have, and this isn't a new topic, police, fire, it's something that maybe could be discussed with the new capital planning committee. And the other concern that I have is no one's talking about our town water. What is going on with our water department?
Rebecca, if I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're getting a little off point on the
No,
matter.
may I finish, please, sir?
Okay.
So, public safety complex, problems at the water department that I'm pretty sure are in the millions of dollars. We have capital projects that we're talking about. My recommendation would be that the capital planning forum this year, next year we come back to town meeting and we really discuss these things, looking at the long-term budget, what we have for expenses in the town, and looking harder into grant funding or other federal programs. I mean, if the state loaned us a truck before, can they loan us one now? I live next to a fire hydrant. I don't need your tanker, but I need my water department to function, and I need my water quality to be up to par. So that is just me. But that'd be my recommendation, that we don't pass this tonight and we wait until we have a better idea of how we're going to fund this. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you.
Well, unfortunately, there are a lot of folks in the room that don't have a fire hydrant next to their house, and they rely on that water that we bring to a fire scene. I forgot the first part of her comment. Oh, the public safety complex, well, that's something that capital planning will have to work on.
Thank you, Kevin. Is there any other discussion? No, Bill, wait one second, please.
Daniel Esser, 85 East Main Street. I was on the West Brookfield Fire Department, I know several years ago. We talked about financing a truck with one of the old selectmen, and then the selectmen shut it down. He was talking we could pay $1,000 to $2,000 a month to get a brand new truck. Okay? Sturbridge offered them a free truck. Why not buy a temporary shelter? Put it in there until we can get financing for a truck. I hate talking in public, I'm sorry. But there are other things we do. I know 2 years ago this was addressed. We had two gentlemen that worked on trucks, trying to get them, worked on financing, worked on all of that stuff, and they got shut down. Now you just want to spring it on us so quickly? I know in the last year and a half, the only thing the fire department's trying to raise funds for is a boat. If the fire truck's so important, why are they trying to get a boat?
Thank you, Daniel. Mr. Jenkins.
Mr. Esser, your questions are easy to answer. The first one, I'll address the boat. So a lot of folks are asking why we're trying to buy a boat, and quite honestly, it was the Lake Association that came to the fire department, invited us to a meeting, and said that they would donate a substantial amount of money towards the purchase of a boat. Now, quite honestly, 2020, we had 3 rescues down at the lake where we used outside resources, mutual aid to come in and assist, which in most cases works very well. Last year we had 2. This year we've had none to date. So in the last 3 years we've essentially had right around 5 rescues on the lake. Luckily enough, they weren't so much in the way of life-threatening issues, so we were able to skate by fairly well. But aside of that, the Lake Association has offered to donate money or help out with the boat, with the fact that if they donated the money, we had to match it. So the fire department, amongst the Firemen's Relief Association, that's exactly who is actually trying to raise the money. Not the town, not the department, but the Relief Association. The folks in the department decided that, well, it was a number that was not hard to reach, so we decided we'd put our foot to the ground and we'd start trying to raise money through donations by having raffles, doing whatever we could to come up with the money. If you hadn't noticed, if you're driving throughout the community, you'll see the red signs that are on people's addresses. Those signs are we're using to fund the boat. We're selling those signs to folks for $20, and we make $6.50 off of one of those signs. It's a lot of signs to sell. But in any event, we're doing everything we can to help protect the folks that use the bodies of water in this community. That's one issue. This second issue, Mr. Esser, what was it?
The fact that we had worked it out with the selectmen, or discussed with the selectmen.
Yes,
Selectmen
gotcha.
about financing the truck and only paying $1,000 to $2,000 a month.
Yes, so he's right, he's absolutely right. So there was a lease program that was talked about with Selectman Bigda back a couple of years ago, and he was absolutely right. So I can tell you, the problem that we're having, when we priced out this truck last year, I wrote a grant for it. We were hoping, we had our fingers crossed that we'd get a grant, and Mr. Worth and Mr. Merriam, they helped us on this project as well. We had a price of about $692,000 last year. Since last year, the truck price has gone up $72,000 in a year. And quite honestly, I got an email this morning which surprised me from the same manufacturer that this morning when I woke up, there was an email stating that the truck has gone up another $28,000. So we want to attack the first hurdle first in just getting the bulk of the money. And then essentially we probably try to figure out another way, whether we use the truck stabilization account or whatever to come up with the other $28,000. But there are options for leasing. However, John Madden, who is the assistant to the town accountant, thought we'd rip the Band-Aid off at one shot and come up with a capital debt exclusion. All the numbers that you've seen as far as what the truck's proposal is, this has all been put together by John Madden. These aren't my numbers, they're not the department numbers, they're from the accountant's office. So I'll put them up on the board for you if you want to see them, and we can discuss that. Pam, you had a question also?
I do.
Yes, Pam, sure.
Pam Griffin, 15 Griffin Road. And I do want to say that I'm speaking on behalf of myself and not the advisory board here. I should probably know this, but there was a ballot question earlier this year in May that had to do with the fire truck. How is this different? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Heather White, Town Council. To address your question, procedurally, this would require both a town meeting vote as well as a town election ballot question vote. They don't have to occur in any particular order. So the previous election vote that did not pass can come before the voters again at a future date if the town votes to set aside the funds today.
So folks, if you take a look at the screen, if you can see it's a little bit fuzzy. Let's see if I can clean it up a little bit. Oh, maybe not. Anyway, the capital expense exclusion is $675,000. The second line down, it's based on the average home value, so it's off the West Brookfield fiscal year 2022 tax recap sheet. The average home value in West Brookfield is $292,914. West Brookfield has a tax rate in 2022 of $13.23 per thousand. So for that home with the average value of $292,914, their average tax bill is $3,875. With the increase of the exclusion, the debt exclusion, it would be about $1.35 for 1 year only. This is why we talked about ripping the Band-Aid off. Which would bring your tax rate to $14.58, my apology, $14.58. Per thousand, correct. With that being said, your tax bill would go up for 1 year, $396. Now for me, and for a lot of folks, that probably seems like a lot of money, but right now it's about 3 tanks of gas for me, unfortunately. The adjusted average tax bill for that one home is about $4,271. So all that, ladies and gentlemen, equates to about $99 a quarter. Or if you kind of do the math, it works out to like just over $1 a day. I can tell you right now, a lot of us on the fire department, we have a hard time sleeping at night because we have no way outside of mutual aid to really protect the folks outside the hydrant district like we need to. It is very difficult for us if we pull up with the 2 trucks that we have right now. One of them has 1,000 gallons. The other one is a brush. It was built for a brush truck, but we've actually got it kind of converted to a structural fire truck for the time being. That's got 750 gallons of water on it. That's it. The rest of it comes from mutual aid. We have we have a small brush truck. It's a pickup truck from 1977. We also have a rescue truck that's got about 300 gallons of water on it. Is that right, Chief? Yeah. So we don't have much in the way of fire protection outside the hydrant district. That gentleman's good.
Mr. Jenkins.
This is Bill Jenkins. I live on 67 East Main Street, West Brookfield. My question is, well, I'll start out. My taxes are now over $6,000 a year, so it's going to be a big impact on someone who's living on a fixed income and so forth. Is there a way that you could extend the 1 year to 2 or 3 and lessen the impact on the tax rate?
That would be an answer for the advisory board or town council.
All I can tell you is we've not looked at that in any way, and we have not modeled it in any way, so we can't give you an answer on that.
I'm sorry?
We haven't modeled that in any way, so we can't give you an answer on the floor as to whether that's, we'd have to work with the town on how to figure that out.
Mr. Jenkins, the answer is no, we cannot extend it.
I'm sorry?
The answer is no, we cannot extend it. This is not on.
You cannot?
We cannot, more than a year, per state law. That excludes.
You said you cannot extend it beyond a year?
That is correct.
Is there a reason for that?
Town council can explain.
Yes, town council, please.
I'm not hearing, I guess, which I am hearing impaired.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Heather White, Town Council. The way that this is proposed is it's contingent upon a capital outlay expenditure exclusion, which only applies to the fiscal year. It can't be spread out over multiple years because it doesn't affect the tax base overall. It's just a one-time thing.
Thank you. We do understand that however, maybe there's another alternative that you might explore to fund the $675,000 truck, which I'm not denying that you do probably desperately need, but you must have another way that's impacting the tax rate a little over a longer period of time and another way of financing.
Thank you. Mr. Paquette.
Lester Paquette, 34 Webb Point Road, West Brookfield. I have a question. Previous years, every year, we were putting money into a fund so there wouldn't be a great capital expense like $600,000. That we're building up revenue so the impact wouldn't be bad. Now, is this $675,000 going to be incorporated with that sum of money that we have on hand?
Board
To answer your question, Mr. Parker, there is $100,000 coming out of that truck stabilization account.
So it'll be a 760,000. In other words, you're using 100,000 out of that. It was a specific fund for a fire truck purchase.
Correct, fire truck stabilization account, correct.
All right, is 100,000 in it?
There's, I believe as of last week, Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, it was about 202,000 in that account, fire truck stabilization account. When we met a couple weeks ago, it was about 202,000, if I remember right.
We can go with that. It was over 200.
Yeah.
So it's my assumption that you want to spend 675,000 plus expedite the money that's in the fund for a total?
Correct. You know, you're absolutely right, sir. I don't price the trucks out, or build them, I should say. They are very, very expensive.
I have a gentleman in the back.
Ken Work, 15 New Braintree Road. Captain LaPierre.
Sir, please address through the moderator. Address to me first.
According to Pierce, which I have on my phone, engine 1, engine 4, hose layout, hose adapters, almost identical. The only difference between the two is the caps. Engine 1 is a Type 1 Class A pumper. Engine 4 is a Class A / Type 2, Type 3 pumper because it was also correct, designed as a forestry truck. But that is also a Class A pumper that can respond to house fires. It is also set up with a deck gun on top, which does not sit up there because it won't fit the station. That's $246,000 that this town spent 17 years ago, and it's only got 5,000 miles on it, and does nothing but go to parades, go to get inspections, and lately, been going to brush fires. I think it's a huge waste of money. I, for one, on a fixed income, just can't come up with that extra money. And I'm sure if you look around the room, there's a lot of elderly in here, they can't come up with that money. So, great, we do need the truck. I was a firefighter for 33 years. Understandable, I know they need it. But at this point in time, with everything going through the roof, time to look at another avenue.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Worth. Are there any other discussions?
Cami Lamica, 24 Maple Street. I have a financial background. We just established the capital committee. This should be one of the topics, first topics they look at, whether to replace the truck, how to replace the truck, how to fund the truck, whether we need to do something to the building so we're not ordering what sounds like a custom truck, which is raising the cost of it. We need to look at borrowing. We've been borrowing lately at 1% interest. Why would we lease something? We also need to start looking at a long-term financial plan for the town. We heard from the advisory committee. We need to start looking forward to our financial future. We need to be incorporating these kinds of expenses. And we need to look at the revenues that are coming in. And I also did ask the Department of Education to give a session to the municipalities in the state of how they determine the state aid for the schools and the contribution that the towns are asked to pay for so they understand it better. So hopefully those things will all help. But I think we need to give the capital committee a chance and to come up with a plan on how to do this and what to do about it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Long?
Thank you. Tom Long, Allen
Allen Street. I've recently gone through over 50 years of town government in New Braintree and West Brookfield, most of those years serving as a select person. I've always found that it's so helpful if the towns cooperate with each other and share equipment that they can share, particularly when you take the fire department. A pumper isn't going to go out in 3 or 4 different towns to a fire all at the same time in a different town. That's very unlikely. The only thing you can't really share is your storm equipment plowing, because if it snows in West Brookfield, it's going to snow in New Braintree and so forth. And I would really like to see us considering, sharing what we need with other communities that are there. And some of them have full-time people working in their stations. I have the greatest admiration for our police, our fire, and also in our local communities. And we should look at trying to share what we need here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Is there any other discussion?
Deanna Lucia, 81 Ragged Hill Road, West Brookfield, Mass. I think that sharing sounds like a great idea until you're talking about response times. And when you live like up on Ragged Hill Road, you're not really going to want to wait for Spencer or Brookfield to get all the way up to your house when it's on fire, or to need an ambulance or any of those other safety, public safety interests. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Lyden. I bought the old Brookfield building on Route 9 next to Douglas. As many people know, there has been ongoing safety issues within the township due to lack of criminal activity, lack of policing provided based off of income from state government, and also local lack of crime. So the policing is sufficient for the district it does cover for criminal activity. However, there is still an ongoing issue with, particularly my own children, where the school buses are continually passed by on Route 9 while the stop signs are up, endangering the general
Mr. Lyden,
safety and welfare.
could I get you to focus a little bit more on the article, which is the fire truck, please?
This is public safety in general.
It's outside the scope of the article, sir.
Then I'll take a seat and speak when it's within.
Thank you very much.
Doreen Pihota, 11 Cottage Street. Can Rich talk about the insurance assessments that are going to be happening for the state? Because my understanding is that when towns get evaluated, if we are unable to provide proper fire protection to the outlying homes, everybody's insurance rate is going to go up. It just won't affect their homes, it'll affect everybody's insurance rate, which is going to probably offset and be more money than what we pay for a one-year debt exclusion.
Richard, do you wish to address that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So Doreen's right, and this was actually going to be part of the presentation as well. We were going to get to that. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a thing called an ISO rating. It's actually not an ISO rating anymore. Now it's called Vertex. They've been bought out and it's changed, etc. So what this is, it's a rating with a 1 being the worst. Correct that. Let me correct that. 1 being is superior fire coverage for your community, which helps your insurance immensely. It keeps your insurance rates low. A 10 being the worst, below minimum. So right now, the town of West Brookfield, in town, in the hydrant district, is a 5.6. It's right flirting with 5.6. So it's about average for most communities. Outside the hydrant district, it's a 9. It can't get any worse, except go to a 10. So I was at the FPM conference in Southbridge 4 weeks ago, which is the Fire Prevention Association of Massachusetts, it was represented by every community in the state who sent their department. So the ISO folks were there. This year is a proposed year for audits for homeowners insurance in Massachusetts. These auditors do all the New England states. This year happens to be, so she says, Massachusetts. They're proposing to do Massachusetts. I don't know if that's going to happen to West Brookfield, but they are going to start auditing Massachusetts communities. So with that being said, if they happen to come into West Brookfield and do their audit, the insurance rate for the folks that live in the hydrant district will probably go up to 7, 8, 9. The folks that are outside the hydrant district are already at a 9. Your insurance isn't going to probably get any worse. The folks that live in the hydrant district, unfortunately, yours will be like the folks on the outside of the hydrant district. So your insurance will go up. So what that means also is in talking with all the other departments that were there and talking with these folks from the insurance company, insurance office, if there was a truck that was on order, it wouldn't hurt as bad. However, who knows when that's going to happen. It's going to take 2 years to get a truck. If we ordered it tomorrow, which is not going to happen because this also has to go to the ballot in September, or a special town meeting, or what have you. So with that being said, whenever it gets passed and we get the opportunity to order a truck, it's going to take 2 years to get it. So even if we wait for capital planning to put the program together, figure out how we're going to purchase the truck, it's going to be at least 2 years from that date. So right now, those folks outside the hydrant district don't have water protection. Not a lot anyway. Add 2 years to that. So I can tell you, the truck that we proposed through New England Fire Apparatus, they plan on, they plan on loaning us a truck for the entire time that we're got one on order. That was the stipulation with this company. They'll give us a loaner. Now, it won't be the truck that we're looking for, but it is a piece of equipment that will help out the community.
Yes, I believe so. I think, thank you, Rich.
Okay.
No, I'm not finished yet. I was still, I had 2 more comments. One is, with respect to borrowing equipment from other towns, we have mutual aid agreements with Mr. Long. As a selectman, we know that our wait time for mutual aid, even for ambulances and for fire, can be detrimental to a family. It could mean losing a home, it could mean losing a life. That's, I believe strongly in that. I know we have mutual aid agreements, but we need to protect our town. And the other thing is, if we buy a used truck, if they can find one that fits into the station, we could be buying somebody else's problem. We could be buying a truck out of Worcester that has 10 times more road time and engine time, and who knows what could happen. And who would like to spend $250,000 on a truck? That major problem happened within a year, and then we're stuck in the same position we're in. So I just think that buying a new truck is probably the best solution.
Thank you, Jim. We are going to end discussion on this. The motion has been seconded. We've had plenty of discussion on it, so I'm going to take the vote. All in favor of the article, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. Let us do that one again. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. My determination that the article has failed. Article 14. I move that town vote to amend the town of West Brookfield's general bylaws by adopting a new section 3 to chapter 9, highway and water regulations, as printed in the warrant, to take any action relative thereto, is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen. It's a majority vote. Second.
Advisory.
Advisory.
Advisory recommends.
Select Board. Is there any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Mary Beth Saj, 11 Rodman Street. I'd like to first, with moderator, thank the Board of Selectmen for working on this very important issue. The people here, why this has come up, is we realize that some of the volunteers for years who have placed the buoys in the lake and managed the dam were personally liable for their actions. And so the town came up with a way to get them covered by their liability and indemnification insurance by coming up with the Lake Wickabog Management Committee. And we're very thankful that this has solved the problem. So our volunteers that have been doing this service for our lake residents for over 2 decades will now not be personally liable. So we appreciate this opportunity.
Is there any other discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The article is passed unanimous. Article 15. I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $53,055 for the purchase of a current model year Ford Police Interceptor utility all-wheel drive black and to meet said appropriation transfer from the free cash the sum of $53,055. This article is sponsored by the Police Department.
Second.
Advisory.
Advisory recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen.
Select Board recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor of Article 15, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The article has passed unanimous. Article 16. I move that the town vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 139C, such that no license fee shall be charged for a license for a dog owned by a person aged 70 years or over, or take any action relative thereto, sponsored by the town clerk.
Second.
Advisory board recommends approval.
Board of Selectmen.
Select Board recommends approval.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? There being none, the article has passed unanimous. Now we'll entertain a motion to dissolve the meeting.
Second.
Seconded. The motion has been seconded. All in favor say